Hi there, it's Louise here of Timeless Craft Mama, and today I'm sharing a process video with you that's for a canvas I created inspired by the Scrapbook Boutique June mood board. Now, I had been toying around with doing a canvas or an off-the-page project for a little while, and as soon as I saw this mood board, I knew straight away that I could go really crazy with the monochrome black and white and some silver incorporated in there as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Avery L Neutrals Collection paper pad and I'm going to pull out some of those really bright black and white papers. Now I also must apologise because my video has this tendency to stop filming halfway through, so I did lose a little bit of my video there, but nothing major, so you will catch up. So what I'm doing is I'm taking a square canvas to begin with and I'm applying some canvas panels, and the canvas panels I just picked up at one of my local discount stores, so you can build some really interesting layers with this canvas and the canvas panels, and you'll see that I've just used some old cardboard to prop that up a bit. Now the reason I did that was because I knew this was going to be quite built up and quite heavy. I was going to add lots of elements and layers, so I want to make sure that it's nice and sturdy and it's going to hang on to itself once I'm finished. Now I've also just applied a coat of white gesso over the top of the project because again I'm going to apply some medium, so I want to make sure that everything is going to hold up to what I'm going to stick to it. So the next thing to do is to build some interest again with these papers. So I didn't have a particular image in mind when I first started this, but I'd been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I'll put a link to one of the ladies that's really inspiring me at the moment. But I wanted to sort of have this sort of abstract kind of canvas with lots of interest popping out of the sides and things like that. So, you know, there's no right or wrong for me when I'm putting this canvas together. I'm just going with however the mood strikes me, and will keep building the layers and the pieces until I'm happy with the final result. So I'm again just working the layers, working the papers. You can see that you know, I've used some grey there, even though it's a black and white mood board. For me, grey helps break up that black and white and you know, really gives it interest. Now you may have also noticed in this video that for some areas I'm using the hot glue gun and some areas I'm using the tacky glue. That's because I may decide if I'm going to move something later on I want to use the tacky glue, which gives me a little bit more option to free that element up if I decide that I want to move it. So if I know that a piece is definitely staying where it is, then I will hot glue it, but if there's a possibility or a chance that I might change my mind, I'll use that tacky glue, and that gives me a little bit of an element of time where I can actually change my mind if I decide I want to move it. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm applying some of the Faber Castell whipped spackle through a stencil, and this is the first time I've used the whipped spackle because I really felt like it was no different to modelling paste. You know, why would I use it when I could use modelling paste? But for this project, I wanted to give it a chance. I wanted to have a play with it and see if it was actually any different. Now, on the back of the packaging for the whipped spackle, it actually says that it's a thicker consistency gesso and has the sort of feel of like icing. And I am honestly so impressed with that whipped spackle because I had no idea that it was going to apply the way that it did. It really did go on so smoothly and give such a good feeling. It was, you know, it's really hard to describe, but if you've never played with whipped spackle, I would definitely suggest go ahead and have a try of it because I'm really impressed, and I think I'll use it a lot more often than I'll use modelling paste from now on, especially because you can mix it with gelatos. So sorry about that, I did get a little bit off track. What I've gone through, and you can see in the video, is that I've taken some Dilutions mist and some water, and I've just sprayed that around the page, and the project, and I've dabbed a few areas. I've added some water to help it run down in between that whipped spackle with the canvas. With the stencil. So because I applied it through that stencil, it left those gaps, and then I've applied the mist and let it run through to sort of have it highlight those gaps in that dried whipped spackle. So I have these chipboard pieces. Some of them are from Craft. One of them was just in my stash, so I'm not sure where it came from, sorry, but I will upload a link on the blog to let you know where you can get a similar product. So what I'm doing is I'm just painting them with the Alchemy Silver Spoon paint. And I have to tell you that I am pretty addicted to these paints. I, again, wasn't sure about them. They're only a small tub and they're a little bit more expensive than, like, say, a Dilutions paint, which comes in a really big tub, really good value for money. But the sparkle and the shimmer, and you can kind of see it there, really gives these paints a different quality to them than a normal acrylic paint. So I'm going to just start to build into some areas of this page that I want to create. Sorry, I keep calling it a page. It's because whenever I do a process video, it's normally for a page. So canvas. So I'm going to start to build this canvas. And what I'm doing is I'm using some of the Cocoa Vanilla Studio Color Me Happy flowers. Now I chose these from the Scrapbook Boutique store because they are in that neutral palette, obviously, but also because they can be coloured if you want to. So for me, I've left them quite plain. I have added a little bit of colour later on down the track, but you'll see as I build this final canvas that mostly I just wanted that neutral colour. So what I've done with this piece of paper that you can see me coming in and out with as I lay the flowers around is I've cut it using the Cricut machine, and I'm just, again, putting some cardboard to build some layers and some interest. So as much as this has a background canvas and it has the canvas panels, there's lots of building to raise it up and create layers and interest around it. So it's not so much just a matter of making a flat canvas for me. I really want to make sure that my canvas has lots of interesting areas and things to look at and lots of details. So a couple more flowers. You can see that I've also trimmed off one of those chipboard pieces, and I'm going to apply part of that later on. A little more area to build up there just to make sure that, yeah, happy with it now. It's in the right position. I'm going to stick that chipboard piece down, and I'm finally happy with what's going on. And what you'll see is off camera I've gone and dry embossed that piece of paper. Now with the fluid chalk edger just in white, I'm going to ink around the outsides and then just highlight that embossed area over the top just to make that pop. So you don't have to press really hard. There's lots of ink in the fluid chalk edger, so you can actually get lots of colour applied without having to push too hard. And you can see the difference that it makes to that embossed section. It really just helps it come right off that page. So a couple more flowers, adding some finishing touches here to that background of the canvas. That little piece of chipboard that I cut off before, I popped that up the top. Now this owl was a piece that was out of my stash, and I wanted to put it on the piece. It wasn't that I went into this thinking about owls, but I kind of had the idea in my head that black and white is sort of a nighttime kind of colour, and I was going to use a saying, something to do with like, I'll always love you, or something like that, so that I could hang this in my boys' room, or, you know, I had an idea in my head to begin with, and it really didn't come out the way that I had envisaged. So the owl went on the piece, but it's certainly not the way it was going to be used in my head when I started this canvas. Now what you can see me doing here is I'm playing with some more Faber Castell products, and the first one was Texture Luxe in silver, and then I'm just applying some of the asphalt paste, which is this really textured, it's almost like gritty and sandy kind of black, gives real texture. And when I get to the end of this video and you see some close-ups, you can really see that sandy kind of texture in the background does certainly add an element of interest. So I'm just going to let that dry naturally, and I'm going to come back and start to play around again with a bit more of this canvas. So I'm going to do some splatters, and I'm having a bit of a problem with my paintbrush, so I'm just going to change my brush and pop those splatters of that silver acrylic around this canvas. The good thing about that acrylic paint, and what you see me, sorry, I'll come back to that in a minute, what you can see me doing here is just some watered down gesso, just to add sort of that white interest and help break it all up. Little spray of water just to get things moving and a bit more fluid. And of course now I've forgotten what I was talking about. Oh, the silver paint, sorry. So the silver acrylic paint is water based, so you can mix it with water and spread it around, and in one of the other colours that I had, I actually turned it into a mist. So I just got an empty spray bottle, put some paint and some water into the spray bottle, and then used it in as a mist in project. So they really are quite versatile, and the beautiful shimmer that you get from those products is just fantastic. So I've gone ahead and I've added some diamantes to the flowers, again, just to sort of make them pop and highlight them on the page. And then I've used some Dilutions mist and just inked around that canvas because I wanted to give some spots of black popping through, because it's still a bit lighter than what I'd like it. So I've stuck my owl on with matte gel, because when you use the hot glue gun on those sort of silver or metal products, they certainly do get hot, and they don't tend to stick as well. So I've just used the matte gel for that purpose. I've added my final quote, which was again a stash item, and I've popped that on a doily. Now you're going to see what I finish this layout off, and it's by using the pale silver mica powder, or mica powder, or however you want to pronounce it. So I've sprayed some water around the page, and then I'm just sprinkling that mica powder around, and you can see that I'm just colouring in that quote and giving it that beautiful shimmer that mica powder has, and that's to help build the, to bring that quote into the final result of this canvas. Now I've also got some glass glitter, and I'm using the pitch black, so again a little bit more matte gel, and then I'm just going to sprinkle that around on the page. The glass glitter was a little bit messy, but I really love the way it just gives so much texture to the project. Like you can see, I'm just putting it around the corners, and eventually I give up with my fingers and I just start spreading it all around all over the canvas and making a good old mess. But that's the fun of mixed media for me anyway, is getting your hands a bit dirty and adding interesting elements to different pages. So the glass glitter is going to be the final products that I'm going to add to this canvas, and this is something a little bit different for me. So I'm pretty impressed with the final result, and I had fun making this. It's certainly something outside of what I would normally create, and that's why I did a video for you, so that you could actually have a really good look at the project and see what my process is as far as creating that sort of more mixed media off the page project. So I'm giving you some shots close up of the final project, and you can see that there's some of those elements of the glass glitter, but there's also that asphalt paste as well, which really gives interest to that sort of, you can see the difference. One's really sort of gritty and textural, and the other one's really sort of shiny and sparkly. So something a little bit different, which showcases a whole lot of different projects. You know, definitely if you haven't had a play with mixed media and you're just wanting to have a crack at something and you don't want to put all those elements onto a layout, an off-the-page project, small canvas is definitely something to have a go at. So I really hope you enjoyed this project from me. Please feel free to leave me any comments or questions or anything that you want to know further. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see future projects from me, and make sure you check out Scrapbook Boutique for all the products that I've used here. Thanks so much.